Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a big day of news. So Mastercard kind of dropped a big bomb on us all yesterday. They're resurrecting the GMAP program. That was an older program and kind of predates some of the existing chargeback monitoring programs they had, but they're bringing it back. So let's get right into what that is. We have some of the documents here, so we're going to kind of just go over what those are. So on July 28th, Mastercard dropped a mandated bulletin that reworks its entire fraud and dispute monitoring stack. This isn't a tweak. They're retiring the old acquirer monitoring program and replacing it with something broader, that's called GMAP, and tightening the questionable merchant program and ratcheting down on chargeback threshold every year for the next 5 years. So we got 3 things to understand: what the program actually is, what the timeline is, and then the fees. So let's get right into it. First of all, the program, ACMP becomes GMP or GMAP. The old program only really cared about chargebacks. GMAP now looks at the fraud and disputes together, kind of like we're seeing on the VAMP side, and they're going to put it in one score. So it counts confirmed fraud even when it never turned into a chargeback, kind of like we saw on the TC40 reports on the VAMP thing. So fraud you thought you dodged, that's no longer going to be the case. It's still going to count against you. It monitors you and your acquirer just like it does in the VAMP program. So GMAP grades performance at 2 levels: the merchant, your mid, and the acquirer, their ICA, which means your processor now has skin in the game on your numbers because your bad month now rolls up into their portfolio score. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because there are some nuances there that's going to be happening, which is going to have a lot of impact downstream for the acquirers. So you should expect your acquirers to get a lot more aggressive about offboarding those risky merchants, because the license is now going to be on the line if they're going to be underperforming as well. So we got 4 new labels because we love labels. We love all of these little acronyms. So high dispute merchant, HDM, excessive dispute merchant, ECM or EDM. And then on the acquirer side, HDA, like you can already guess it, high dispute acquirer and excessive dispute acquirer. So the PayFac loophole is also closing. So this is kind of the big one that I was just alluding to. A lot of times, you could have like sub-merchants inside your merchant bin and underneath run merchant ID that could kind of like level it all out. Mastercard is going to actually be monitoring this on the sub-merchant level. So you're not going to be able to onboard super low risk merchants into that same mid to offset high risk merchants that might also be in there. They're going to be at the sub-merchant level. So if you're an acquirer and you happen to be listening to this, this is something that will be affecting you. So you need to start getting your ducks in a row for that. They've also made some changes to the questionable merchant program. This is the one, it's already existed, but we're tightening some of the thresholds in there. So minimum transaction volume from open cases drops from $50,000 to $10,000. And this is to actually get some of the smaller merchants that used to kind of just be under that threshold. They're now going to qualify. So they're going to be still participating in these programs. So that's things to think about there. The review window is also going to shrink from 120 days to 30 days, but MasterCard can extend that to 60 days. They also removed the merchant must be under 6 months old limit. So established merchants can now get caught too. Translation, essentially, they could catch smaller merchants faster, regardless of how long you've been around. There's a scarier one here. It's called the EDM clawback. And if a merchant sits above the excessive dispute threshold for 2 months, they become liable for all fraud-related chargebacks from the past 3 months. So that's the 3 months before. So 2 months, if you're in that program, you now get fined all the way back to the 3 months before, plus any fraudulent transactions for the next 6 months after. Issuers get to reclaim 100% using the reason code 4849. That's a 9-month liability window for one designation. So they're getting a little aggressive on that. So you're probably wondering, what's the timeline going to look like for all of this stuff? Well, bulletin was published yesterday. That is July 28th. Enforcement is going to begin on April 1st, 2027. So that is when the GMAP and the revised QMAP go live. Sub-merchant level monitoring that I talked about begins for ECM, HECM, and EFM. Love our acronyms. In 2027 or 2028, ECM is unchanged. 100 plus chargebacks and a 150 to 299 basis point limit on that. Starting on January 1st, 2029, that ECM window will tighten to 130 basis points. January 1st, 2030, that tightens to 110 basis points. And in January 1st, 2031, we're tightening that right on down to 90 basis points. So right when friendly fraud is at its highest peak it's always been, we're actually going to get the other direction and tightening all of these things. So the excessive line moves from 1.5% today down to 90 basis points by 2031. So if you're running between the 1.2 and 1.4 right now, feeling safe, you're going to be inside the danger zone within 3 years without changing a thing. So the clock is ticking. So start getting ready on that. Now the part that hurts, baby, the fees. So these are going to be monthly assessments that stack every month that your audit stays open. So you have to be clean on both thresholds for 3 straight months before the audit closes and the counter resets. So the slow bleed gets expensive really, really fast. So let's talk about the merchant fines first. So high dispute merchant triggers at 5+ cleared transactions and at least $5,000 in fraud plus non-fraud chargebacks and 500 basis points, so 5% of sales. Months 1 to 6 are $0. Months 7 to 11 are $5,000 a month. Months 12 to 18 are $10,000 a month. And then months 19 plus is going to be $25,000 a month. I'll put a chart on the screen for this here so everybody can kind of just see that, what that's going to be. If we want to get into the excessive dispute management, that triggers at 5+ cleared transactions, at least $10,000 in fraud, plus non-fraud chargebacks, and 5,000 plus basis points, 50% of sales. So month 1 is $5,000, month 2, $25,000, months 3 to 11 is $100,000 a month, months 12 to 18 is $200,000 a month, and months 19 plus is $300,000 a month. Plus the 9-month clawback plus the 9-month chargeback clawback I described above. The EDM is a business ending designation if you really ignore it. So we can jump into the acquirer fines. So high dispute acquirers is 1,500 plus cleared transactions, 1,500 plus fraud and non-fraud chargeback transactions, and 50 plus basis points or half a point of your sales. Months 1 to 11 are $0. Months 12 to 18 are $25,000 a month. Months 19 plus are $50,000 a month. And then if we get into the excessive dispute area, same transaction counts, but 70 plus basis points, so 7% of their portfolio. That is months 1 and 2 is $0. Months 3 to 6 is $10,000 a month. Months 7 to 11 is $25,000 a month. Months 12 to 18, 50, and months 19 plus 100,000. So there's a couple of things that might make it a little worse. Like I said, for the acquirers, if they're non-compliant for 12 plus months, they're forced into the franchise management program review at the acquirer's own expense. And then, like I said again earlier, 19 plus months, possible restriction, suspension, or full termination of their Mastercard license. So who should care the most? Because this is getting kind of long already. PayFacs, marketplaces, and platforms, you lose aggregate mid hiding spot. This is pretty important, especially for a lot of folks in the VAMP thing. So you're going to start scoring their own sub-merchants. You should probably start looking at that now. Merchants near the 1% chargeback on the merchant side. The threshold is going to be coming down to 90 basis points by 2031. So you're going to want to start building that buffer in now, not start building it in 2030, guys. Anyone with fraud that isn't hitting chargebacks, GMAP counts it anyway. No dispute is no longer the same as no problem. So all of us that enjoy using 3D Secure as kind of a weapon, it's our problem again, even on MasterCard side. And then high-risk verticals and newer merchants, QMAP shorter window is going to remove the age on those accounts. So it means faster and broader enforcement. So what to do? This is the ending of this particular part of this particular episode, is pull your current chargeback rate and basis points and map it against your projections for 2029, 2030, and 2031. Know exactly where you trip if that threshold had hit even today. If you're a platform, get your sub-merchant level reporting in place before April 27th. That's the deadline that sneaks up on people. If you just happen to be an acquirer or a PSP that needs some help with that, we actually have some tools at Arconic that can help you with that. So feel free to reach out. This isn't a plug for that. It's just something that we happen to have. So call us. And then separate your fraud numbers from your dispute number, because GMAP now blends them. So all those subscriptions that you've been getting disputes in on, those are going to count too. So make sure you're counting both of those numbers just as a projection to get a little ahead of that. And then talk to your acquirer if you're a merchant right now. They're going to be graded too. So they're going to be tightening quietly. So they probably are going to have some conversations with you that you might have a back and forth that might be able to help if you're a merchant that's been pushing kind of high, that you might be worried about your status in their portfolio. It's good to start having some of those questions now. Now, I know this was a lot of information. There's a lot of documents out there. I'll post some accompanying documents with this as well. Feel free to just discuss in the comments. I'd love to have like any sort of concerns or confusions that might exist in the comments. Let everybody in the community kind of go back and forth and say what their opinions are on that. So the bottom line is Mastercard has given everybody a 5-year warning on this one, especially for the fines. Those don't really kick in for a couple of years on that, but the thresholds do. So businesses need to treat that 2027 like the deadline instead of 2031. and the ones that are going to come out fine, like you'll be prepared by 2031 without any fines. So get your basis points in order right now, please. All right. For those that are still here, still sticking around, we do have a little bit of regular news that happened this week. Of course, PayPal, as we know, the board rejected that initial offer that they had. So because of that, though, PayPal had posted some Q2 earnings that were pretty good. So PayPal posted Q2 adjusted earnings of $1.38 a share on yesterday, July 28th, beating estimates and raised their full year guidance to $5.38, reversing an earlier flat to negative lookout. So that got the little Stripe bump there. Those results landed 3 days before Stripe and Advent International self-imposed deadline to reach a deal, giving PayPal's board more grounds to hold out for a price closer to $70 a share after rejecting the pair's $60.50 share. So the CEO, Enrique, still hasn't ruled out a deal, saying PayPal would consider any path that created superior value for the shareholders. So any action item coming out of this, acquirers and PSP competing with PayPal should watch whether the bid collapses or gets sweetened, since the outcome resets the competitive picture for checkout and BNPL as well. More Mastercard news. This one kind of got talked about a little bit. I think there was a little confusion yesterday when I announced, but Mastercard is tightening the clock on the merchant scam investigations. So new rules under Mastercard's scam merchant monitoring program took effect on July 24th, requiring acquirers and payment facilitators to investigate flagging scam activity within 72 hours. This program targets authorized transactions that consumers were tricked into paying. So the distinction there is it's authorized that the consumer was tricked. So they still were authorized. I think a lot of times they've been saying, it wasn't really our problem since it was authorized on that. A distinct problem for traditional unauthorized fraud. It parallels Visa's acquirer monitoring program, which ties fee discounts and fines to fraud performance rather than a fixed investigation window. To which Visa says has driven improvement. And this is actually shocking to me. Visa says has driven improvement on nearly half of their flagged acquirers within a single quarter. So, I hate to see what the expense was at some of the merchants that probably got dropped from some of those portfolios. But apparently VAMP has done wonders for cleaning acquirers' actual portfolios. So acquirers and payment facilitators should confirm their monitoring and escalation processes can meet Mastercard's new 72-hour window before an audit finds the gap, and then probably some fees. Another one, I saw this a little bit for some of the people that follow this type of news, but the OCC rejected Wise's U.S. bank charter over some AML gaps. The Office of the Controller of the Currency denied Wise's application for a national trust charter on July 23rd, citing unresolved deficiencies in suspicious activity investigation, transaction monitoring, data integrity, and late filing of SARS reports. The rejection follows a July 2025 multi-state consent order in which Wise US paid $4.2 million over similar Bank Secrecy Act and AML failures. Wise's shares did fall 11% on the news, and the company says it will reapply under the framework established by the Genius Act. PSPs and fintechs that are pursuing a bank or trust charter should treat this kind of as a preview of how closely that the OCC will scrutinize any AML remediation and not just the paperwork on that. And then the last one we really got today is LemFi turns BVNK stablecoin rails into remittance settlement. This is something that's been kind of interesting to me for a long time, is using stablecoin for cross-border payments and settling in currencies to kind of minimize FX exposure. So LemFi partnered with BVNK on July 21st to settle cross-border remittance transactions using BVNK's regulated stablecoin infrastructure before distributing the funds in local currency to the recipients. The deal builds on Tether's strategic investment in LemFi from May and targets faster and cheaper transfers across the diaspora remittance corridors. LemFi serves Africa, Asia, and Latin America. The stablecoin settlement happens behind the scenes, so the user-facing app experience doesn't change at all. So the action item coming out of this one, PSPs, acquirers, and remittance-heavy corridors should benchmark their settlement speed and cost against stablecoin-backed competitors like this one before pressure forces them to do that. So thank you, everybody. I know this was a long one. That MasterCard one is really heavy at the beginning. There's a lot happening. This news is still fluid, just like it was when VAMP came out. So please put any comments and any corrections that you might think exist in the comments of this. And let's talk it out. Let's be a community. Let's come together as a community on this one and really get ahead of it and make sure that we're prepared on this so we can all be successful inside MasterCard's new framework. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.